Hello, everybody. My name is G, and I just featured on Atypical podcast. I talked about a lot of interesting things. Talked about the countries I've been to: South Africa, Uganda, now in the United States, and also the Congo, where I was born and raised. And also talked about how I speak 4 languages, which is pretty fun. I speak English, Lingala, Swahili, and French. So you should definitely make sure to watch this episode and also share it with your friends.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Atypical Podcast. My name is Deji, and today I'm going to be talking with G. Say hi to the people.
Hi, guys.
So you're a very interesting person.
I am.
You know, have you seen those ads where they talk about like the most interesting man in the world, and then they describe like weird things that the person has done? Have you seen those ads? Okay. Like Chuck Norris type stuff. But anyways, you speak what, 4 languages?
I do.
What languages do you speak?
I speak English, obviously.
Okay.
French.
Okay.
Lingala, and Swahili.
English, French, Lingala, and Swahili. And you've lived in how many countries? In your short, few years of life.
South Africa is 1, Uganda is 2, Congo, of course, when I was
You're
born.
from Congo?
From the Congo, and I've also lived in America.
So now in the United States.
Yeah.
What's the timeline of that like? When did you live in the different places?
So, lived in Congo from when I was born till 2009. So
2009, you were how old were you at that time?
I was 8.
So you had to move out when you were 8 years old.
Yeah, basically to go to boarding school. So
your parents are tired of you.
I would hope not. But so I moved to Uganda for primary school, which is like middle school.
Okay.
So they say in America, right?
I don't even know how. I'm not sure how. Yeah, I know the Nigerian one. I don't think I know the.
It was 4th grade, pretty
Okay.
much. And that was in 2009.
Yeah.
And I stayed in Uganda up until I finished the 7th grade, which was in 2013.
So that's like 4 years. So you were like you got in when you were 8, then left when you were 12,
Yes.
and then moved where?
Then I moved to South Africa to start high school.
Okay.
So from 2014 to 2000 and
Just say the ages, because like the
age?
years is like hard to follow.
yeah, I was 15 when I left.
Okay.
I was 15 when I left in 2016 because of interesting reasons, bad behavior and whatnot.
Okay.
So, because the idea
When you
was
left Uganda.
no. So when I left South Africa, because
Okay, so you got to South Africa when you were 12, then you were 15 when you
Yes.
left. Okay.
yeah. So the idea was that I was going to do the whole of my high school
In South
Africa, maybe possibly even university. I don't know, but because I didn't behave so well, and the fact that I was away from home, my parents decided that I should finish high school in Congo. That way I could be within, around them.
We're going to talk about your bad behavior. And we definitely should explore your bad behavior. But before that, like, why? So, like, what was the reason for, like, all of that move around? Like, was it just, like, better education? Or, because, I mean, of course, we can look back on it now and say that was, like, maybe, like in terms of, like, the world, that's, like, it gives you like a different worldview, and it's cool and whatnot. But I don't think your parents were thinking about that when they were sending you these places.
No, I think my dad generally has always been someone that was like so passionate about our education, and he's also always wanted us to have a better experience than he and my mom did. And so for him, to an extent, that looked like us studying kind of like outside the country or places that may
That's interesting. So it was intentional.
yeah.
So why Uganda then?
So that's because we had family friends.
Okay.
So my dad is someone that like he really liked to do a lot of things that his friends did.
Okay.
In a positive way though. So and so he had friends that sent their
That's funny.
kids.
It's funny that you had that. I think that you added the caveat of like in a positive way.
Yeah, because it's kind of like peer pressure, but
isn't it interesting though, like the need even as an adult to like protect your dad's image? Like
yeah,
everybody does that. Like everybody else like subtly like just wants to slide in there. That was for good reason.
Yeah, because I feel like that would have like seemed as though like he just follows the bandwagon, but
yeah,
he doesn't. Well,
do you feel like you've come to the point where you see your parents as like people? Like, and what I mean by that is like, you know, as a child growing up, like your parents are heroes. They're like, you know, your protectors. You depend on them for different things. But there comes a point, and everybody knows that there comes a point where you start to realize that, whoa, these people are like, they're people with like flaws and challenges, and they made bad choices that they, you know, some choices that they regret, and like just even realizing. I think for me, like it dawned on me when I started to think about like the fact that, you know, someone said something like they started to think about the age that their parents were when they had them, like the age that, because I started thinking to you know, for myself, because now I've passed the age that, you know, my dad and my mom were when they had their first kid, and I'm like, whoa, like it's like literally at that age with. I mean, do you ever feel that way? Like, is it like? Because for me, I find it interesting. Like they were like kids too, like raising kids.
I feel like it takes a while for you to come to that realization, but I think it really hits as you grow up, and because I think like as a kid when you grow up, there's like you don't pay attention to so many details. You just know that your parents are just there to provide and whatnot. And I feel like that's what it was for me. I didn't really pay, and especially because there are actually things about my family structure that's like quite interesting till this day that I didn't really know and pay attention to because I was a kid. And growing up,
things like what?
Like my relationship with my dad, and in fact his relationship with us as kids. When we were younger, we didn't have much room to really have that day-to-day engagement with our dad in that sense, because what it was that he worked from morning all the way till late night, and the way the timing worked was that like by the time he comes back from work, we're already in bed because we have school the next day. And so by the time we're leaving for school, probably he's already left for work as well. So like I guess like the only times maybe you could see him was on weekends, but the weekends, even at that, he really spent more time with his friends, things like that. So like that period of time in life where you could have actually formed like an actual true bond with him, we didn't really have that. So now that kind of reflects in today's like experience, because it's and that's why it brings you back to what you talked about, like the point where you realize that these are actual people. Because I realized at a point where he started to express that concern, that like feel like we don't like, and it was so much so that it's not him that even said it, like it's our mom that kind of like brought it up to the kids, like, yo, like, you know, do you guys notice that, you know, dad is trying to like get closer, and like, you know, but I can't say
that's interesting to me, yo.
I don't want to sit here and say that, like, because I believe anything can still change. So I don't want to sit here and say that like the damage is already done, but you know, the truth is that like it's something that would require a lot of intentionality, because you know, when I see a lot of it, sometimes I have so many friends and I see them like
having like really cool relationships
like
with their parents, and then
chill, dad, like I talk to this person. Like for me, when I call my dad, sometimes it's like I'm just giving him a report about my life. Like, oh yeah, so school was like this. I had this, church is this, church is
like
this.
very, it's like mechanical. It's like work,
right? You feel me? So, but I think that there's some progress being done there, but just to address that point, I really feel like there was a point where I got to really. So the other side though, my mom, she was more like at home,
available. Yeah,
she was. She stopped. So when my dad married my mom, he asked her to stop going to school. So they met when he was already working and she was just around like finishing college or whatever. But he told her to stop going to school and be like a housewife pretty much. And so mom has always been at home. So most of the kids have a better relationship with mom.
I have 1,000 I want this to ask. Okay, but interestingly though, like for me, I think I'm older than you, but I think the experience is also very similar. Like my parents, I have, I think they want that like closeness in a way. So for me, I actually started boarding school when I was 9. And boarding school in Nigeria meant that you were out of the house, like living with these caretakers for 9 months out of the year. And then, so when I finished that from 9 to 15, I was home for like a year. And then by 16, I moved out of the country by myself, like just me, to the United States. Now, and then mind you, phones came out. Like, and when I say phones, I don't mean like, telephone lines. I mean like, GSMs, like, being able to like have a cell phone came out when I was probably like, I can't really say, exactly, but I must have been like maybe 13-ish was when they came out. And at the time, like all my friends were doing what kids do, like teenage stuff. You're like texting into the night. And then we had those things like back in the day where there would be like, I don't know if you guys had it in your own time, where there would be like free calls in the night.
Yeah.
So people would literally be on the phone with friends like all night long. And for me in my house, it was completely forbidden. So my dad had this thing where he believed that he had some people at work that he had beef with because he felt like they weren't doing their job. And the image of them that he painted for us was these people were always on the phone all day long. So anytime we picked up the house phone, because we did have a house phone, every time we picked up the house phone to talk to anybody, like even if you were there for like 30 seconds, my dad was like, what are you talking about? So from a very young age, I had the wrong impression of like being on the phone. So it carried on like through my like growing years. And then as I started to like get close to graduate from high school, from college, my parents now started, wanting to hear more and more from, they could justify me not really talking on the phone with them as much while school was on. But they now wanted to start like hearing from me more and more. But then like, I had developed this like anti-phone call. Even till this day, I'm not really like a phone person, like a phone call person. Wow. Like I would have like text messages over phone call. So of course, like adjustments, I'm working on making adjustments in that area. But it's just very interesting, like seeing how those things like play out in your life. Now, to what you were saying earlier, though, do you think that you would do any things differently based on the things that you learned from your dad, like in terms of like your own family structure?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like,
what were you different? What are you gonna do?
Oh my God, I feel like even if I was as busy as he was, I think I would be more intentional,
because what he did was really for you guys, like, was sacrifice.
That's so true. Like that's
and
what
you have to acknowledge it for what it is.
Yeah, like my dad has always, like, even till this day, like there are things he does and like what's on his mind is just, I want to get these guys done with school and have the best in life. So it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
Right, but now from what I've learned, so thank God that's that. But from what I've been able to learn from it and the consequences that are unaccounted for, I would definitely invest in having a relationship with my children. At an early stage and be there, because the very interesting thing about it is that like what you're not telling them, they're gonna hear it from somewhere else, and it might be distorted in a way, and that's how, like, let me even add this, because we kind of talked about or I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But I got to study a lot more away from home. So that also was something on top of, not really having that relationship with my dad, because maybe those years when I studied away, maybe things would have changed. And
that's true. Because when you were there, he wasn't available. When who knows, maybe when he became available, you also now weren't there. Yeah.
So I feel like, so just I think that in all, really, what I would do differently in my household would be to be so intentional, because at the time, he would have, in his mind, probably was like, I gotta work, like they're kids, can play with themselves, mom is there. But he probably didn't know how it would look like years down the line. So knowing that, I would definitely invest in being there, talking to, like, having a real, till this day, I really, I just look at people that can talk to their dad about their life experiences.
It's like something to be converted, as it were.
Yeah, so...
Would you want your wife to be a housewife?
Very interesting, actually. That's a thought that has progressed, and I feel like it was also because of the household I was raised in. Like, I used to say this to my friends when I was in high school. I'm like, my future wife has no business being in school currently. Just stop, because when I meet you, I'm gonna do the same thing that my dad did. I'm like, I'm just gonna tell you, just like, so you're wasting your parents' money right now. Like, just stop, because I'm gonna marry you and I'm gonna want you to be a housewife and I'm gonna just provide and stuff like that. But it's just
out of every 10 women that you find in your world today, how many do you think would want that? Like, to be fair though, like, let's also be honest. Like, there's a lot of feminism going on in the world, but women, they still want to.
I've heard and known and like
live soft girl life. So they're providing they probably won't mind. But do you think that people really are satisfied, happy doing that?
Let me talk about that a little bit. Like, there was a moment where that hit me for real, because I didn't have an issue with it, because that's just where I grew in. Yeah. And to be quite fair, a lot of families in Africa are structured like that. Yeah. So it wasn't really like, dang, why is our family different? Like, it was a norm. You know what I'm saying? Like, this independent women thing, that's what kind of was weird. Like, okay, how are these guys like independent and whatnot? But one day when it really hit me was when, so the way that it works is that my dad is mostly the provider of the house, right? And he gives the children pocket allowance here and there. And then one time my mom just made like a kind of like a joke, like she was like, well, at least you guys have gotten your allowance, like I haven't got, like she said it like, but it really got to me,
like the fact that she has to get an allowance.
Yeah, like, and I know that everything in the family is like shared, like with the man, but it's still in a way like, just because you're not bringing something in, there's a way it just seems that like you're kind of dependent, like it's ours, and my dad has done everything to make it seem so it's not even like this is on my dad, but I'm just saying, like, it got to a point where it just
felt weird.
I felt so, like, I felt for my mom on that day, and that scenario has never left my head, because it got me thinking, like, what about her personal aspirations she had, things that she could have been doing that could have, like, there are moments in a person's life where they probably want to maybe make an expense knowing this is my money. I'm just making an expense, or I want to do a business and this is me, like, and it almost seems as though it couldn't really be so. But again, like I said,
at what time did that happen? Because I'm also curious as to like the presence of mind that you had to even like catch that.
I was still in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, I was still in high school, and just here and there, because my mom in the family, she's like kind of like the secretary, the one who deals with the money pretty much. So that's how it is. Like, every time anything has to do with money, dad would be like, go talk to mom. That's how it is.
Wow, so that's a good arrangement too. Like, so she's not bringing the money in, but she's managing it.
Yeah, she deals with everything, like the businesses the family has. It's my mom.
Wow.
Yeah, it's my mom that handles everything.
So she runs the businesses.
She runs them, yes.
So she's pretty like an entrepreneur in a way.
Pretty much. Right? So you can say she's self-employed.
In the family business, yeah.
Yeah, self-employed, dealing with
that's a bit different. That's an entirely like a housewife.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it grew into that, really.
Which, pastor often tells us that really it's like, homemaker is the better term to use. She's not married to the house, but like, being a homemaker, it's for many, they don't get involved in any other type of work, but also for you to still be able to see that everything she has is tied to your dad. Now think about it this way, right? Did it cross your mind that you have a dad that's like a good, from what you've expressed so far, is a great person, right? Imagine that scenario with playing out with a man that's not so great, like somewhere else. Do you get what I mean? I'm just talking about, you mentioned how like in Africa it's like the States. For a lot of people, like you had a good, like a best case scenario where your dad is not like hanging it over her head. There's, like he's actually a great guy. But some people have and a lot of people have a complete different experience where the man actually uses it as a tool of subjugation. Interestingly though, that wasn't my experience at all. Like I grew up with a mother that was like, my mom was just like super enterprising. Another day maybe I'll talk about like, so some other details about that, but she's been like owning businesses and running businesses for as far as like I can remember. And she always had something going. I mean, her career was like education, so she was a teacher, and then she later became a principal and so on and so forth. But at every step of the way, she always had like something going. I remember there was a time that she had another teacher in school that was like employed in her business on the side. And like, she would leave school to go and like handle business. And this guy would like cover for her. And then like sometimes she would send him to go and like do the work. And I remember the guy very well, very, very interesting man. He would like, go and handle the business, and she'll be like, she always had a way of like moving things. So it's very different from, it was later that I acknowledged to myself that was a very different experience, than most people had. So let's talk about, Uganda. What was it like going to school in Uganda?
It was very, I think so interestingly, let me add this. I say that I went in 2004, which was in the fourth grade. Yeah, I was in the fourth grade, but I had gone prior to that first. So in the third grade, I went with my two elder siblings, and I was excited, moving to a new place. I'm like, wow, came with mom. Then when it dawned on me that my mom was not going to stay with us, she just came to accompany us, settle us in, and then leave. Oh my God. So what happened was I cried. I was like, Mom, you can't leave. She left anyways, right? I never went to class. I would just wake up and cry and just cry.
I mean, you were 8.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd never been away from family, and this was just the third grade. And so I would cry. My elder brother, who is just like about a year older, and then the other one is like about 4 years older, they adapted well. They were cool. But me, I wasn't going to, they were forcing me to go to class. I would just cry. Wake up in the morning, cry all day. They drag me all the way to class, and I'm just crying. Like every day, like they had to go call my brother, because my elder brother, the one that's 1 year older, was with me. So there is the primary school, and then there's the secondary school. Like they're two different. So he had to take me to my big brother. They call my brother all the way from secondary school, and he would tell me it's gonna be fine, like go back in the holidays. I would not listen. So it got so bad that my mom had to literally come back.
Wow. So
she had already traveled back to Congo.
And Congo is like, that's Congo is geographically, that's like Central Africa.
Central, and
then
Uganda
is East Africa.
East Africa, yeah. So, and the way we had come was through road. It's quite a journey.
Wow.
Because normally you can just fly.
Yeah.
I don't remember actually why we went through road, by the way, but that was a great adventure because we had to pass through Rwanda. So we go. In fact, actually, so Kinshasa is where we stay, which is the capital city, and that's all the way in the west. By the way, Congo is very big. So we're in the west. So we had to fly to a city in Kinshasa called Goma, right? Which is literally by the border. And then from Goma is where we drove into Rwanda, because it's right next to Rwanda. Drove into Rwanda, then through Rwanda drove into Uganda. So that's like the journey that we had to go through all the time to go to.
Did you even as a kid prefer, like, did you like the aesthetics of like Uganda? Did it look like cleaner, better than Congo in a way?
I think Uganda was chill.
Okay.
Honestly, I guess it was cleaner than Congo.
So what did your mom do when she came? How did she?
Oh, yeah, she just came back to literally take me back.
Like, what?
Yeah, so actually,
I didn't expect that actually.
Yeah, her and my dad and like family were like, what is this boy? So like we spent a lot taking meds, so like he will adapt. That was their mentality. But it was my aunt that was like, nah, he's gonna get sick. He's crying every day. Like when I told her, like I was like every day I was crying.
Wow.
It's all day. I want mommy back, like stuff like I want to go back and stuff. And she came back because they told her, like they just advised like he's gonna get sick. So anyway, so she took me back and I went back to Congo and
did a year of school.
Yeah, did a year of school.
I'm sure you felt very accomplished.
I felt so great coming back. And then it was because my cousin, who was like my close cousin, went to Uganda the following year. I was like, I feel like I'm ready to go now.
Oh, so you asked to go?
Yeah. Like I was like, I would love to go back this time. Because they had come back from holidays, my big brothers, and then my cousin was going to go back with them. So I was like, I think I'm ready to go now.
You know what happened to me when I was like, I told you I went to boarding school when I was 9. There was a school that I wanted to go to. I had everything like all planned out. Even as a kid, like I was very like focused on like certain things. So I wanted that school and it was going to be that school or nowhere else. And, I got into the school, and at the time my dad didn't want me to like go to boarding school. So he kept like trying to like get me to agree to be a day student. Oh, I'll drop you off. The school is not too far from my job, which was true. I said no. I said I want to go to boarding school. That I want to have provisions like my siblings, because I was seeing them like buy provisions for my siblings, like cornflakes and all that stuff, and they'll take their stuff to school. I wanted that. So my dad said, no, okay, if that's what you want, I can buy your own provisions for you at home. I said, no, I don't want it. So they took me to boarding school. I was happy as God knows what. I was excited. Got to school first day, they dropped me off. Even my younger brother was crying. My mom was crying. I didn't even like pay them any mind. They went home crying, and I was excited the whole day. Like just like going around the campus, just like it was just like until night. So it was time for everybody to go to bed. I went to bed, and as a kid at that time, because I was like, 9 years old, I would often like go and sleep, on the same bed with my mom at the time, because sometimes my dad would travel and all that. So I would be on the same bed with my mom. So we had like a big bed, and I would often like just like roll to like mommy's side and just snuggle with mommy. So let me tell you what happens. So in my sleep, I'm imagining that like it's this big bed and I'm about to like, roll over and snuggle with mommy. And bro, like I rolled over and I landed on the floor. Like my body hit the ground, like boom. The way I cried, it was like emotions. And the crying wasn't like the pain of falling. It was just the realization that, whoa, I'm here by myself. And then I looked out the window, and the way the school was, like it was like pitch black outside. I cried tears. I literally went out to because we had I was on the 4th floor of the building. I went out to like the veranda, what we call like the veranda, like porch,
like balcony
type of area. And I prayed to God. I said, God, I don't want to sleep one more day in this place. If I've ever done anything good and kind, please reward me. When morning came, I couldn't wait for morning, because remember my dad had made this promise to me, right? That I was going to do all of this cool stuff. So I called, and at the time, remember there were no GS, there wasn't cell phones, but we had like this payphone in school. I went to the payphone, I knew his number, his office number, I called. I was like, Daddy, you have to pick me up today. I've changed my mind. I'm not doing it again. I've learned my lesson. My dad laughed. He's like, no, it's too late. Bro, I spent 6 years in school. I spent 6 years. Wow. Like, I cried so hard. I begged. In fact, there wasn't like at some point I even like went home by myself. Like I escaped from school and went home, and I remember like sneaking up into the house and somehow the door just happened to be open. So I opened the door, and it's a long distance from the school to my house. Like you have to cross the Third Mainland Bridge at the time. Wow. So there's no, my parents couldn't understand how I got home. I just got to the house and I sat in the living room, and I could hear my parents in their rooms. They're just talking. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to tell them that I'm here? And then they walk out and like, this dude that we left, how many miles away is here? And I begged. So like, I just feel like it's like very interesting, like what your own experience was. Wow.
Hey.
So the second time that you wanted to go, was it better? Like, did you actually enjoy it?
Yeah, I think because I came with more of like an open mind now, and also my cousin with whom I was like pretty close, like was coming as well.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like I was open to it now. And
what was Uganda like though in general? Like for you, like in terms of like the culture?
It was different, really, really different from what Congo is like.
In what ways?
Just like mannerisms, food, like even like the process of learning English. Yeah, people are great. Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Oh, wait, so you learned English there?
Yeah, I went there.
Oh, that's something. So that's what you were saying. What was it that you were saying about, mommy? I want my mommy or something like that.
Yeah.
What language are you saying?
I was in French.
Really?
Yeah, I was crying in French. Like,
what were you saying?
The class, like, je vais ma maman, like, je vais rentrer, like, I want to go back and stuff like that. They couldn't even understand what I'm saying, like, while I'm crying.
That's even worse.
So they're like, what's wrong with this boy and stuff. But it
that's
was
even worse. Like, I'm imagining
I know,
like this
they don't even know what he's asking for.
Speaking a foreign language, and
it was a lot. Like, I think like that's why, because learning English is not. English is easier to learn compared to French, obviously, but learning a new language was just, it's not always the easiest of things. But it was like being thrown into like a pool when you don't know how to swim, and you have to like, so that's how it was like. But granted, we did a little bit of like English school prior to going, but you know how useless that is. They literally teach you like how my name is like, bro, that's
all you're equipped
with. I'm gonna have to live my whole life in this country. But I think one of the greatest experiences I had was finally learning English, because how it happened for me was that I was now in this place, everyone's speaking English. I don't speak English. I know how are you? I'm fine. My name is this, right? But then it's like I now had to like literally learn live. Like, this person said this is the expression they made after this and this and this and that, and like I was just like learning progressively.
But like, after how many years did you feel like you were now comfortable?
I think maybe a year. Like,
really?
Yeah, after a whole, because I'm also in school. So I'm also
so
like
you're using it every day. Like, you're forced to rewire.
So it was a great experience. Finally,
at what point did you start dreaming in English?
Man, I don't remember actually. I don't remember when it clicked. But that's so interesting, because my first language just switched, because pretty much my whole life now was in English. Like, I barely. And that's interesting. That's how it is to this day, because the amount of time I spend talking to those I speak with in French is like very less.
So you feel like your French isn't as good as it used to be?
It's not, because I'm speaking English all the time, and I only see family, here and there, and speak to my parents on the phone here and there. But
what do you speak to your parents in? My
dad, only French.
Okay.
My mom, she speaks to me and my siblings in Swahili and
that's
French.
intentional.
Yes, it's intentional, because she doesn't want us to forget it. And Lingala is like a joking language. Like, I will never speak to my mom in Lingala, like, seriously. It's like if we're making jokes and stuff like that, Lingala can come in. And so like literally I can find myself speaking to my mom in 3 languages.
I
That's
think
a flex, by the
That's
way.
a flex. That's a flex.
Yeah.
Polyglot check.
Hey, you know.
That's good. That's good.
But yeah, but all in all, Uganda was a great experience. Also, the school was literally known. It's called Taiba International School. Like, so it was literally an international school.
Yeah. So you had
it
like
was
kids from everywhere.
Sudanese, people from Kenya, people from like different parts of the
That's
world.
pretty.
And so
That's
it
pretty
was,
cool.
Yeah, it was really a great experience living in Uganda. Learned a lot, was exposed to a lot. Even the school system was really great. Like, it wasn't just about going to class and like just studying.
Yeah.
We had like some activities that would just broaden your experiences. Like we had
Like what?
Like one of the things that was, I mean, this may probably be so many other people's experience though, but like sports day was something that was really great because like a lot of people got to cultivate talents, like things they didn't know they were so good at. Like, you know, we had like relay race and all those things. We had different kinds of like sport, like soccer,
Like into house sports. That's what
yeah,
That's what we call them in
we
Nigeria.
had that. And then we also had something I particularly think was really great. Swimming was like an actual lesson. Like I had swimming lessons.
Like a class.
Yeah, swimming was a
So you
class.
swim well.
Yeah. And then there was,
That's a flex.
yeah, that's also a flex. And I participated in like swimming competitions.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't win, but hey, you know, at least like I learned how to swim, and that's part of the things that, you know, and I know how to do. Like, and then we had like also this thing called exposition day,
Yeah.
whereby like every class, like 6th grade, 5th grade, 4th grade, like every class had a topic they would come up with. And on exposition day, parents would come to visit every class, and you guys would now like
Display stuff.
I remember one year we did exposition day on coffee, and like we got to first of all, because we have to learn these things before we expose, so we got to learn how to like the history of coffee, how to make coffee, products out of coffee. So when you came to visit our class, we had a section for products of coffee, like coffee cake, coffee, like the drinking coffee.
Did you guys
like,
make those things?
Yeah.
Wow.
So of course everything started with like the seeds, right? So but then like everything like started from there. Like we make coffee, like the drinks from scratch,
That's
the
practical
cake,
learning.
bake the cake from scratch, like everything. Then we had the section that's gonna focus on talking about the history. But all in all, really, it was like a great experience seeing like these different aspects through which we could like learn. And
Did you have experiences of xenophobia in Uganda at all?
not much, because Uganda, like I said, like Uganda,
The school was an international school.
yeah, and Uganda in general is like a very well, especially to the East African community. Like Uganda is really a center. Like one of the nationalities that was really a lot in Uganda was Sudanese. Like at some point you would confuse who is more in this country, because the Sudanese were like everywhere, and I found that really great. Like the fact
So
that
they're very
Uganda-
welcoming.
Yeah, they are.
But you did mention just like to me in the past about that one day though where there was like a country fight.
I thought I was about to lose my life. Like there was it's
How old were you? What happened?
I was in maybe like 5th or 6th grade or so. Like that was maybe what, like 10, 11 or so. And there was, in the secondary side of the school, there was a fight between a Congolese and a Sudanese. I was like, just something small. And then I think one bit the other. Then the Congolese guy went to avenge, like went to kind of like do payback, but on someone innocent, but just because they were Sudanese.
Whoa.
And he took like a fork or something, or like a glass. Actually, no, it was the other way around. Actually, the Sudanese came and cut. Actually, no. So the Congolese cut the Sudanese, like came and cut, and that was my brother's friend. Like my brother a friend of mine in the junior school. Like that was his brother who got cut. So one day we're just chilling playing soccer, and we see his brother coming to the hospital with like a huge cut right here
On his face.
Yeah, like I think it was cut with a knife or a glass, and it's like, what's going on? Like it grew. To make the long story short, like it really grew to become something big, where it was now Congolese versus Sudanese, and like in the secondary school, if you didn't have to do anything. Like Sudanese and Congolese.
On site.
Yep, and my big brother was involved.
Wow.
The guy that cut the Sudanese was kind of friends with my big brother, so like they kind of had to get there and defend each other, and like that thing almost spread out to the our side. Like this girl who was also related, it's like she came to me, and like, you know, Sudanese are quite tall, even the ladies, and scary too, but she came like no, they're like, whoa, yeah, you get what I mean.
At the time,
she was like,
height was
okay, she was
intimidating.
pretty much like same age, but she was like, she looked taller and like, yeah, and I was like pretty small. That's why I said that. But she like was like, yo, like if anything happens to my brother, I'm coming for you, like, and I know that she could totally beat me up, so I was so scared, you know. But that's like the closest experience I ever had to anything that had to do with like nationalities or whatever.
So what was the reason for the move to South Africa then?
Sorry?
Why did you move to South Africa? What was that about?
Same thing too, like my dad had friends that
there was like some good school and he wanted you guys to go there.
And then he asked around and stuff like that.
And that's where you got into stuff.
That's where I did get into stuff.
Let's talk about it. What happened?
I think first year I came, you know, I was excited, very bright student, especially because I think the education level in Uganda is quite more elevated than the one in South Africa, because when I went there, so bright, like especially in math, like I got certificates and stuff like that for my performance in math and everything like that. So
and you felt like it was just the preparation from like that Uganda,
like the
school,
things, like it almost felt as though I'm repeating stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah. So so I was very bright, very doing well in my classes and everything like that. And then I feel like because of how much I had already adapted to Uganda, and now coming to South Africa, I was definitely different. Like they looked at me as a foreigner and treated me as such as well. And that got me feeling some way because, you know, all of them, I think I was the only one that wasn't South African in my dorm.
Wow.
Yeah. And most of the other people that aren't, there were a couple Congolese actually in the school as well, but those were mostly those who actually grew up in South Africa and identified so much with South Africa. But I was this foreign guy. My accent is totally Ugandan, you know, and stuff like that.
Really? You had a Ugandan accent?
Yeah, I did. It was deep, you know. So much. So the way the Ugandan accent works is almost like, I would say laptop now, but with the Ugandan accent, it's more like laptop. Like it's more. So they would make fun of me with that and stuff like that. Like, every time I speak.
So is it like, okay, so was it like, would they make fun of you onto like that Hollywood, you know, that Hollywood African accent type of thing? Is that how they?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like, why is he sounding so, like that kind of thing? And like, it was so bad to the point that literally before I spoke, I would whisper under my breath to practice speaking like with the South African accent. Like, so if I would say the la, I would catch myself under my breath and try to say la, like the A that sounds like South African, so that when I speak they don't make it. Like, it sounds weird, but like this is something I had to do every day before I spoke, because I mean I could.
Do you think that affected confidence in a way too? Like,
it definitely did, because I was like I literally had to change. By the time I was leaving South Africa, you couldn't tell me apart from South Africa because I had to adapt. But that also played into how I got involved into some of the, you know, bad behaviors and stuff like that and bad habits, because of trying to adapt, right? I was made so much to feel like I wasn't a part and I was different. And I mean, boarding school generally has bullying, so every one of us, the juniors, were bullied. But there was also by seniors, yes, but there was always that extra because I'm foreign, like, so they can bully my friends, but when it gets to me, they would do something extra just because I wasn't, you know what I'm saying. But how I got into that was like the friends. I didn't have friends already because I was new, and because of the fact that I was foreign, it was very hard to be approached by people to be my friends. So I wanted to belong so much. And I remember one time we were in the shower, in the dorms and stuff like that. And these guys, my dorm mates, were talking about how like on the weekend they went to smoke together, and they would sit in the park and they lit one and pass and lit one and pass, and it kind of sounded cool in my head. And I was like, man, like I want to try and stuff like that. And I just cut into that conversation. I was like, hey guys, like I want to try, like I'll pay. I don't, and you know, my dad sent me there, so I kind of had money, like in a way, so a lot more than them. And so like they were welcoming to the idea because they knew that this guy gets sent money from their parents, from his parents, so he's gonna be the supply, like he's gonna pay for it and stuff. And so yeah, they like said, okay, cool. And in my mind, genuinely, I actually wanted to try just once, right? But we tried one time.
What was it? What did you smoke?
Weed.
Yeah.
Right. So it was weed, and like, mind you, this is my first year. So the first time I smoked was my first year, but towards like the ending of the first year. So I'd been a good kid for at least some time. So it's not like, yeah. But I remember us just like smoking and this was in the morning before classes, like smoking and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, like this is an experience. And then on that same day, I smoked 4 other times. So I smoked 5 times on my first try. Like, cause I told him, I was like, I felt like I didn't know that it's progressive. Like you get high progressively. So I was like, it didn't hit. So I wanted again. And I was like, I gave the money. Let's do it again. Like, so break, in between. So we had break and then lunch. Like break was short and then lunch was longer. So break time, I was like, we did it again. Then I still want, like I kept wanting more. So we did it again in between classes while we were switching classes, like let's go again. And these guys, like, as he's paying for it, so you know, we might as well, and stuff like that, like 5 times. And on the last time we got caught, but we didn't get caught by like the school, like we got caught by the seniors. So the seniors found out, and like it's forbidden, like, so that's something that, like, I mean, it's a lot to explain all those structures, but like the way the senior thing worked was that, like, even just living your life freely enough to drink or smoke in school, you needed to have those privileges, and that was only to seniors, right? So I wasn't caught by school, but being caught by seniors was something big. Yeah. So I was scared. They were like, "Oh my God, we're gonna deal with it like after school in the evening when everything is done." And I was like, and what they did was they whipped us. Like they whipped us for I don't know who snitched, but they snitched on us. They whipped us so bad. I was like, yeah, I'm never gonna smoke again, even though I did, obviously. But anyway, that was just to explain how I started. It was just
what you're saying is so interesting to me, because, and I think it's a good point, because I think, you know, I believe that some parents will listen to this. You know, parents really have to be intentional about the choices that they make when it comes to their kids. You know, we're talking earlier about like whether we would send our kids to boarding school, and honestly, I don't know that I would. I really don't know that I would, knowing what I know, because and you know, I've never said this, you know, out in the open like this before, but I think it's important to say, because I think it may be helpful to some parents as well. We had kids when I was in school. Of course, for me, I always had a sense of like godliness, you know, so I didn't really, you know, get into things that I shouldn't get into, at least not in high school. But it's amazing to me that when I was 13, we had kids in my school that would patronize prostitutes at the back of the school, like at there was like a red light district just behind my high school, and these kids will like scale the fence. Our fences were not high at all. In fact, I don't even think they were intended to block anybody from anything. You know, these kids will like jump over the fence at 13, and they would go and, you know, sleep with prostitutes and smoke and, you know, like drink and come back to school and tell the stories, you know, gleefully. And there was, of course, there are people that never engaged in that. Like, you know, for me, I got into school with a very strong sense of like, you know, who I was. My parents gave me like this kind of like elitist mentality very early, that, you know, you're different from everyone else, you're special, you know. So I didn't really like feel a need to engage, but these kids did that type of stuff at that age, and imagine what that does. I mean, they're sleeping with like women that are like well into their 30s and 40s, And to a kid at 13, he thinks it's an accomplishment.
Right.
But that's like ruining his life. And weirdly, some of them haven't recovered like in life from those experiences. You know, and all those things happened, you know, just like you described, like peer pressure.
Yeah.
So how did it? So you made up your mind you weren't going to do it again, and then what?
I think I just started, like, when I got into it, I kind of just felt like it was cool. Like,
Yeah.
I like what it brings to me when I'm high, and like the experience. And then I think also the bonds we had,
the friendship,
with,
which was really what you were doing it for.
like I was trying to, you know, get
Fit
into
in.
a circle, like, because I mean, I'm away from family. I'm gonna be here for a couple of years. Like, I need some kind of socialization, you know.
Yeah.
And so I realized that, and it's a commendable thing, even though it's in the wrong aspect. But people that smoke together, I think in all my experiences of friendship circles, like, the bond they have is crazy. Like, they're ready to do anything for one another. That's how it was in that circle. So
And that meant a lot to you at the time.
it did, because like, it's like they became protective, and like, you know, they were there for me. We had bonds when we go to smoke together, and then when we're like, you know, they call it the munchies, like when you're hungry after the smoking, like, we'll get each other snacks and eat and just like gist and talk about life, and like, that felt like everything
Like
I
heaven.
wanted, you know. Yeah, it felt like heaven. But that's how, you know, that translated. And like, even though, and it affected me a lot, because my grades started dropping, started skipping.
That's the part. That's the part. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people don't know that, like, the thing with weed, I think one of the major things that it affects is your brain cells, compared to like cigarettes. Cigarettes affect more your lungs, all those
Yeah.
things. Weed also like has to do like your brain, so you become a lot slower. Like so, the way I thought and the way that I did things when I was not doing these things, and the way I treated school was totally changing. And sometimes I even started skipping classes because I would smoke before going to school in the morning. So now you're high, you're in class, you're not listening to anything. But yeah, like, so that was some.
So what was it that got you then sent back to Congo? What was the final straw that had your parents on the phone? Like,
So when I got caught with the seniors, right, that did something. I said I'm gonna stop. Then I got back to it, but you know, every time you get caught, you just get smarter. That's what we did. So we just got smarter. Then one day we got caught by security. So one morning, like every day, got to one corner where we always smoke. We're smoking, and somehow security just passed, and security recognized my face, and I got so paranoid and scared, ran away, as though like, you already saw me. I don't know what I was doing, but I was just paranoid and high, and I ran to class, and the guy even called my name because he knew me. So I went to class hoping that I went to the toilet to call my friends, like, man, I got caught, I don't know what's gonna happen. And I went to class, and we had this intercoms in class. I don't know if American schools have that.
yeah, they do.
Yeah, so I was in class, just paranoid and stuff like that, high and paranoid. And boom, the intercom rings, like, Mrs. So-and-so, is Kisala in class right now? And I was like, yes. Can he come down to the office right now? I just knew my life was over, because my dad finding this out will just mean it's over for me. And then I went to the office. They told me to snitch to all my friends. I did not. I held it.
That bond of
I was like, I
smokers.
cannot do that on my friends. Like, I can't. But they somehow just put one and two together, all that stuff, and news got to my guardians, because in South Africa I lived with the son of a friend to my dad. He was married, had kids, so I just moved in with him. News got to him that I was getting suspended from school for 3 days, that he had to come pick me up. Then he
Called
my
him
dad.
man.
And first day home, I was just like, okay, you know, I didn't heard from my dad much. Then the second day, my dad called me, and he was like, what did you do? So my dad was trying to act like, no, he wasn't trying to act, but he wanted me to say what I did. So I was like, hi, how are you? Where are you? Like, I'm home. It's like, are you not supposed to be in school? So he already knew, but he was just
Yeah.
and then, long story short, I was like, I'm home. I got suspended for this. And now he starts like, what did you da-da-da? Did I send you there for da-da-da? Like, this was the angry side of him.
Yeah.
So we dealt with that, but we ended. Then the next day, he calls me. This time it's a calmer tone. It's like, I'm in my office right now, and I'm looking at your pictures from childhood. I'm like, what went wrong? And then my dad starts breaking down, like, on the phone. Like, this was my first ever time hearing or, just experiencing my dad cry. And he's breaking, like, down. He's crying, like, please promise me not to, like, do this again. Why would you do this? Who got... And my dad's crying. And, like, I cried on the phone, too. And he just decided that because of that, at the end of that school year, I had to go back to Congo because he couldn't trust me.
To be away from him.
Yeah, like he wanted to have a close watch. And very interestingly, just a side note, I think a week after getting back to school, I still went, even after experiencing my dad cry. And I remember that day when I spoke for the first time being back to school, I was thinking about my dad, but I was like...
Wait, is that because people always say that they don't get addicted to weed? Do you think that even though and there've been claims that it's like there's no physiological attachment, but that there's, and I don't know the science behind this, but there's emotion, what's the psychological attachment? Do you feel like you had that kind of like psychological dependency on it in such a way that even though you were remembering your dad, you were still smoking?
Yeah, I think for me first, the things that, because at some point in my life I also started drinking, right? But the things that I was I would say that the things that I believed I was getting out of these substances was things I believed I didn't have. Like, I couldn't be confident or bold on my own. Like, of course, at that time, the places where I was exercising my boldness was not really the wisest, right? Like, for example, talking to girls. Like, I felt like if I need boldness, I need to be high or I need to be drunk. And so, like, these were some of the dependencies I had on, like, these substances. It was like to cover up for the places in my life where I can't provide, like, even like just being happy. Like, sometimes you just want to get away from everything that's going on, and so you just want to smoke it up, And then another side too is just being high is cool. Yeah, like, it's really cool. Like,
it was cool.
It was cool, right? Because it's like you just sit there and you're just like hallucinating stuff, and your body starts vibrating and it feels great. You smoke water, like, before you sleep, like your sleep is elevated, all these things. So in your mind you're like, I have great experiences when I'm high.
But you're not. But in that moment, you're not considering the consequences, like your dad, like your grades,
like, so I'm just
like your literal life falling apart before your eyes. But for these few moments of pleasure, it's well worth it. But you did mention though, in your testimony, your salvation story, because you're a pastor now. Praise be to God, right? We have to drop that at some point.
Yeah.
But you did mention that in your salvation story that it was in South Africa that you got exposed to the ministry of Pastor Chris for the first time. So what was that like? And then your journey to, like, actually becoming now a preacher.
And, like, looking at it from now, I'm like, well, I'm grateful to God for how things played out, because I think God has the most perfect plan. But I'm like, because at that time, the ministry of the man of God, Pastor Chris, in South Africa was quite something. So I'm thinking to myself, like, if I, like, was wise enough to take it seriously
at
while in South Africa,
you would have taken off.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I would have been exposed to. But at the same time, I feel like really God had a plan.
Like they say, God's timing is the best.
Yeah, God's timing is the best, because when I was in South Africa,
even though I felt like God's timing was really like you getting involved in South Africa, but you resisted it.
That's true.
For a little bit there, but yeah.
Because so the first time I ever stepped into Christ Embassy Church actually was the year before I started studying in South Africa. So we had gone there just to visit, and then my guardian who I stayed with, he goes to Christ Embassy, and so since it was a Sunday on the trip, he invited us to go to the church. Quite weird. Everyone was speaking in tongues. I was like, what is that? You know what I'm saying? But all in all, like the church was big. It was cool, clean, like nice. I
really love South Africa, by the way. I've been to like the church in Johannesburg, and
that's where it was.
Randburg too. Yeah, Randburg too. Yeah. And I really love the church. Those were back in the days where you would sing those songs.
Yeah. Dancing it was a great time at the time. Really, that was just one time I went to the church. Then when I came to study, now I was living with Christ Embassy members, so I had to start going to Christ Embassy. But it was one of those things where you go to the church because you have to. Like I didn't really, but I would go to the teens church. I would just, I wasn't really involved at all. But that exposure was important. Got to know about the Rhapsody. In my time there, I even attended healing streams, like a healing school at the time. Like,
what did you think at that time?
I loved it. So the thing is so interesting that I loved the ministry. I loved everything. It's just that I wasn't a devoted. Like I wasn't someone who I'd take it.
It didn't click. That this is like my thing.
Yeah,
like somebody else's thing.
Yeah, I was just there. I loved Pastor Chris. I loved everything. I just wasn't like a Christian living the Christian life.
Yeah.
Right. So even though I'll do these things on Sunday, I would still go to church, and I would love the experience. I would praise the Lord actually. So it was just that kind of thing. And you go back as well. Yeah. So it was just that thing where you're not yet caught. Like the light has not.
Yeah, it hasn't hit you yet.
And then when I finally went back to Congo to continue high school there because of everything that had played out in my high school, I meet this girl who was holding a copy of the Rhapsody of Realities. And I was like, what is Rhapsody doing in Congo? Because I had no idea that Christ Embassy was in Congo. So when I saw her holding Rhapsody of Realities, I engaged her and I was like, I know this book. And I was like, it's from Christ Embassy. She said, it's from my church. So I was like, what do you mean my church? Like, she said, Christ Embassy. I was like, is there one here? She's like, yeah. It's like, invited me. But at the time I was going with my parents to family church and all that. Long story short, I came to she had invited me a lot of times because that's what we do, right? Like, we take every opportunity to win a soul. So she had invited me, let me know that she would handle transportation, but it was kind of hard because I was getting to my parents' church, but also I don't think I was like that interested, to be fair. But then one day I said, let me come to this youth conference they had, and I came. And to my big surprise, at this youth conference, I guess maybe I was not too familiar with youth conferences because ideally that's how a youth conference is.
The name, it's in the name.
But seeing young people serve God and every aspect of service handled by the young people was the message for me on that day.
Wow.
Like, because that's a whole nother story, but going to Congo didn't really make my behavior better. Actually made it worse.
Really?
Like a lot worse. On top of weed came alcohol, and my dependency on alcohol was out of this world. I would drink in class and stuff like that.
Like class, like
literally, like go to class, drinking, live out my day like that.
And you were like, how old at that time? Like,
I was like 2016, so I was 15 going to 16. That's the time period. And so going to church, I remember even experiences where she had invited me to church one time and I came to church drunk. I knew I was going to church, but I was like, I want to be able to talk to her and have a conversation.
Because you liked her?
Yeah. Yes, let's put that out there. I was trying to like I liked her at the time, so I was coming to church because I was interested in her and I wanted to be able to like talk to her and stuff like that. Like,
so I
needed to kind of have that confidence because and it's so interesting, which is why like I always don't want people to get carried away in the story itself. I want people to know that I was somebody who almost like, you know how, I hope this is like a good example. You know how some people don't have certain body parts, so they get artificial body parts. I felt like that's how my life was, where like there were these things I didn't have, and I kind of depended on substances to bring it to me. Like someone maybe for whatever reason maybe doesn't have like a hand, and like they have this support. So that's how I feel like
that's I've never heard that analogy before. That's a good one.
That's how my life was. I didn't have confidence. I didn't have self-esteem. My self-esteem was like literally rock bottom, and so it was when I got drunk that I overlooked it and now acted as though I'm the most confident person and things of that nature. So that's the kind of place I was at when I was doing those substances. So it's not really about that I was just a bad boy interested in things. Like I was doing these things to fill a void. And so that conference, really, that youth conference coming to Christ Embassy in Congo changed a lot for me, because even the girl, by the way, is a twin, so both of them were my classmates. So we knew each other from class for like 2 years or prior, and when they invited me to church, I said, oh yeah, it's my friend's church. And just the experience, seeing young people just giving themselves to the Lord.
There's such a power in like young people ministering to young people. I always talk about how my story started with young people ministering to me. The school that I was in, that same high school that I talked about, we had like chapel every Sunday, and we would have like older people minister to us. But the singular most important and life transforming experience that I had was these 3 alums of the school coming back from university just to spend a day with us. Until this day, I don't know their names. One of them, if I see him, I'll recognize him. The other 2, I wouldn't even recognize them, right? But the 3 of them, till this day, I don't know if they realize how important that one day that they took out of their time was in my life. Because that was the single event that set the ball rolling for like who I am today, being a minister of the gospel, even being an effective person in life, being like, just everything started with young people ministering to young people. At the time, I was in my final year of high school. They had just like recently graduated, so they were probably like just like 2 years away, from me. And they came and they talked about the ministry of the Holy Spirit in a way that I never forgot. Interesting story that I always like to share. It was such a beautiful experience. The power of God was so strong. So they ministered to people, and everybody was going under the power. And I wanted to go under the power so bad, but I didn't fall. So they asked a couple of us that hadn't, okay, thank you. They asked a couple of us that hadn't fallen under the power to, sorry, I was getting tired. They asked a couple of us that hadn't fallen under the power to wait, that we must experience the power of God. So they put us in a circle, and we held hands with them. And the guy just like spoke. I don't even remember what he said. He just spoke in tongues, and he said some words. And then everybody just started dropping, boom, 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 boom. And I was the only one left. I said to myself, I must be a witch. that's a running joke in Nigeria. Like, you're the witch for
Fair
not responding
enough
to the power of God. And then the guy walks up to me, and I'll never forget what he said. I don't think there was any. I really don't think there was a truth to it. But it was encouraging for me in the time. So he just came to me and said, that something to the effect of like, me not falling under the power means that I'm going to be a minister of God.
Here we are.
I mean, it did happen, but I don't think the 2 are connected. It was a funny thing to say, but it helped me in the moment because I felt bad. I was like, why didn't I want to go under the power, I want to fall down. So now, I mean, between then and now, things have changed. You're a minister now. What was your general impression of like the countries that you've lived in? Like, do you feel like there's value for you as a person out of like that diversity of experiences? Like, what does that do for you?
I think it definitely does, like, because I've had to do a lot of adapting because of like the whole transition. Even like readapting to Congo, where I initially was from, because having lived so many years outside,
away from it,
coming back, readapting to being at home with family. So
did people also treat you like a foreigner in Congo when you got back again? Like, this guy is weird, he has an accent? Because probably I had an accent from South Africa too.
Yeah, we did. No, but they didn't like, I mean, spoke French, spoke Lingala, so it really was it was home, right? But I think that like I really the fact that I had to do a lot of adapting taught me a lot. Like
Yeah.
taught me a lot about just being able to see different
Perspectives of
perspectives,
life. Yeah.
being understanding of people,
Yeah.
welcoming people
Yeah.
like the way that they are, especially because of like what my experience in South Africa was like. Like that was a life lesson to me because it just that experience really just did a lot to like just my character and my person as a whole. So like it just really helped me learn the importance of being welcoming to people and like
Yeah.
letting them be
Themselves.
themselves and stuff like that. And I think I also got to see different like traditions, like different cultures and how people behave and like go about different things. And also like I've had the opportunity to be around a lot of different nationalities, even though I've been in just like what 3-4 countries, but in those 3-4 countries I've gotten to see a lot more like
Different
other people.
nationalities,
Yeah,
especially with the school that it was an
yeah,
international school.
in Uganda, like, and we were trained to really be welcoming. We learned like about other countries and things like that. Like I think my overall perspective in life is just so wide.
That's
Because
amazing.
yeah, and I love that. And even as a Christian, it helps my perspective because
Yeah.
like you mentioned that I'm a minister now and I have the privilege to lead people
Yeah.
in the in their walk in Christ, and people come from different
backgrounds.
variety
Yeah.
of backgrounds and like
And even the
different
schools that you
personalities.
pass serve quite diverse. You have
Yeah.
Towson University and Morgan State University. Morgan State being a historically black college, Towson being, I don't know, is Towson considered predominantly white?
People call it that,
Okay.
but I think from my experience, I think it's a great balance actually.
It's also a very diverse school
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
So
That's yeah.
it really helps my perspective in that light that like, hey, this person could be from here, but like we can understand each other, we can live together.
Okay.
You can love the person the way that they are, the way
Yeah.
that they speak.
Yeah.
And also you can appreciate like how their backgrounds can affect their perspectives. And like what I'm basically trying to say is that like you don't have to change them in like
In
to
order
some
to
extent.
love them.
And
Yeah.
even to like bring the gospel to them. Like there's a way you can make the gospel relevant based off of
Yeah. That's so true
someone's
though. That's so
background and
true.
experiences without having to make like bring the gospel into this one thing that we
These
all have
books
to
that
change
they must
to
fit
become.
into. Yeah.
So that's something I think.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Well, this has been an awesome episode. We can't end the episode without you doing the polyglot check, the polyglot challenge. So you're gonna have to say something to us in all
Every
your 4
language.
languages. So let's see. And make it like a pretty substantial statement. So start with English so we know what you're saying for the rest.
Wow. Okay, you got
Maybe
me there.
maybe you want to tell them, watch or listen to Atypical podcast. Well, I don't know.
I would not say typical in any other language.
Just say something. Say anything. Don't say hello though, because hello will probably be like
Okay.
easy.
Okay, now I don't know what to say.
Jesus loves you, maybe. Yeah, Jesus loves you, I
Okay.
guess. Yeah.
So Jesus loves you.
Okay.
Jésus vous aime. Hold on, guys. Yesu anabapenda. And
That should be Swahili.
yeah.
And the one
then
before that was French.
Yesu alingibino.
And that's,
So that's
Lingala.
Lingala.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I mean, that's like soft work though. I don't like.
I just didn't know what to say.
What
Like,
to
but
ta-
I
what
can
to talk
totally
about.
like speak in like all 4 languages. Like,
All right. So, what do you think about the interview or this like podcast discussion so far? Respond in French.
je suis en French. J'aime bien l'expérience. J'aime bien parler de ma vie et de ma vie personnelle. Alors, avoir une opportunité de pouvoir parler de moi-même devant beaucoup de personnes, pour moi, c'est déjà une joie. Alors, je suis ravi, je suis content et je suis privilégié d'avoir cette opportunité.
And And I'm sure the French people are laughing at you because your accent's horrible.
No, that was great. That sounds like I'm from Paris.
You sound like
For real.
No, you don't. Okay.
You wouldn't know.
Let's yeah. I mean, I don't know. Okay, so let me ask you another question. So, on the next, let's say I invite you back to the podcast. What would you like to talk about? Give us the answers for him.
Kama bananipatia. Okay, I just want to say. Let me just say this.
Swahili is horrible.
Swahili, I like in Congo. We usually like add a little bit of French there. Like there's some nouns that like you just use French for.
Okay, go ahead.
So just putting it out there. Okay, kama bananipatia occasion ingine kukua hapa, ndafurahi, ndasema mingi. Yeah.
That one I had no idea of anything that you said.
I think Swahili, like I can speak, but it's like my mind has to buffer a lot more.
Process.
But then understanding wise, perfect. So just the speaking that, like I already told you that I speak French a lot lesser. So now Swahili is like a lot more. Like,
and then Lingala is probably like
actually no, Lingala. I would say I speak English the most.
Okay.
French second, Lingala then Swahili. Yeah.
Well, it's been an amazing episode. Thank you so much, G, for joining us. And everyone, please make sure to give us feedback on what this was like for you at atypicalpodcast.show. And if you'd like to email us, it's hello@atypicalpodcast.show. And it's .show, not .com. So be mindful of that. So give us your feedback. Let us know what it's been like for you. And remember to share it. This has been a really cool like learning experience for me even. So yeah. Any final words?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me. I feel so privileged to be at one of the greatest talk shows, podcasts ever. Just saying. But yeah, I think what I'll just say is just make sure to actually watch. I think that there's some great and amazing discussions on Atypical podcast. So like my last word is just make sure you tune in and watch and share. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks again, guys. Until next time, God bless you.